Tonight on the Rosenberg Report, Joel takes you to Ukraine, to the vortex of the biggest and bloodiest land war on the planet since World War II, for an exclusive sit-down interview with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. After his recent meetings at the White House, why is Zelenskyy so optimistic that President Trump is the one leader who just might be able to broker an end to the horrific war Vladimir Putin triggered 3.5 years ago? A war that has killed or wounded more than 1.4 million people. How many Ukrainian churches and Christian pastors and priests has Putin bombed and murdered during this war? And why did Zelenskyy, who's the first Jewish president in Ukraine's history, just host the largest prayer breakfast this country has ever had with evangelical, Orthodox, and Catholic believers? All this and much more tonight on a very special wartime edition of the Rosenberg Report.
When Russian President Vladimir Putin went to Alaska for that summit, that peace summit with President Donald Trump, Putin he assured Trump that he was ready to make serious concessions for peace with Ukraine after this 3.5-year war in which Russia invaded Ukraine unprovoked, unwarranted, illegally, and brutally on February 24th, 2022. Putin said he was ready to make serious concessions for peace. But what did Putin do immediately upon returning to Moscow? He unleashed a wave of ballistic missile and suicide drone attacks all over Ukraine, not just at military targets, but at civilian targets also. And overnight, while I'm here in Kyiv, in the capital city of Ukraine, to have an exclusive interview with Vladimir Zelenskyy, Putin ordered a massive attack against all of Ukraine, but particularly against the capital. Ballistic missiles, suicide drones. Ukrainian officials tell us at least 12 Ukrainian civilians are already dead, including 3 children, ages 12, 14, and 17. At least 48 Ukrainian civilians are wounded, some of them severely. And we're here at an apartment building that was hit directly by a Russian missile overnight. I was awakened in the middle of the night with massive explosions all over the city. And I've come to see with my own eyes what Putin means when he says he's ready for peace. Good evening, and welcome to the Rosenberg Report. We've come to Ukraine, we've come to Kyiv, the epicenter of the biggest war in the world that's raging right now. Okay, the war in Israel is still ongoing, and we're going to keep covering that on the Rosenberg Report as Israeli forces drive deeper into Gaza. There's lots of talk of a ceasefire, but right now, as I record this, Netanyahu is determined to destroy Hamas once and for all. But I've come here for 3 reasons. Come to Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. I've come to Ukraine for 3 reasons. The first is because this is the biggest war in the world right now. It's the biggest land war in Europe since World War II, since the Holocaust. Second, and I wanted to see it for myself. Second, I got invited personally by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy to sit down with him and talk to him about the major issues. I had a chance to talk to him about Zelenskyy's meetings with Trump and European leaders, NATO leaders, and what Trump told him behind closed doors about what Putin said to him. I wanted to talk to Zelenskyy about the persecution of Christians in Ukraine, not by Zelenskyy, but by Putin. The churches that have been destroyed, attacked, destroyed, shut down. Ukrainian pastors and priests killed, murdered by Russian forces, as well as imprisoned and disappeared. We're going to talk about that coming up because Zelensky's being accused by people in the West, including people like Tucker Carlson, that it's Zelenskyy who's persecuting the church. I'm hearing just the opposite here, and not just from Zelenskyy, but from Ukrainian Christian leaders as well. We're going to get to that. So that's the second reason I came. First, to see the biggest raging war in the world right now for myself. Second, to talk to Vladimir Zelenskyy directly. Very few journalists have gotten that opportunity, but he invited me to come as part of the Rosenberg Report, as TBN, as the the most watched Christian television network in the United States and around the world. The third reason I wanted to come was to talk to Christian leaders, to hear from them directly. How are they doing? How's the church doing? What is the level of persecution? And who's doing the persecuting? But I'll tell you, there's a fourth reason I came, and that is to assess, is what's happening here part of Bible prophecy? And I believe it is. And we're going to go through this show. At the end of the show, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. I've also done a YouTube exclusive on this topic. Is the war that's raging here in Ukraine, is it really part of Bible prophecy? I believe it is. And on the YouTube exclusive, we'll go into much more detail. But let's get started as we process this horrible scene of Putin's evil, wicked behavior towards his neighbor, towards Ukraine. He is attacking Ukrainian civilians. A war, an unprovoked war and an unprovoked invasion, that's bad enough. But when you specifically attack civilians, you're killing women, children, men, the elderly, you are committing war crimes. That's why I call Vladimir Putin the war criminal of the Kremlin. And this is a story that Christians absolutely need to hear. All Americans, all Israelis. I've come from one war zone to another. And I want to take you now into the Situation Room in the presidential compound, the wartime presidential compound of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Here's part one of my exclusive interview.
Good to meet you, sir. What an honor. Thank you for making time.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Thank you for coming.
I'm so grateful, and I'm
Thank
so
you very
grateful
much.
to you. I bring greetings, Mike Pence,
Crazy.
Mike Pompeo, and Lindsey Graham.
Thank you so
I
much.
talked to each of them
I know.
in preparation for
They're
this,
all-
and
they're all big friends
they
of
love you, and
Ukraine.
they're working
Thanks
hard
so
for you.
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Well, let's go in.
Yeah,
okay.
we're ready. Yep.
Okay. Mr. President, thank you so much. It's an honor
Дякую.
to
Thank
meet
you so
with
much.
you. I want to bring you two gifts as we begin. First, from Jerusalem, which is where I live, a copy of the Bible in Hebrew and in English. And I just hope it's
Thank you
a
so much.
blessing for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We are praying for you. And
Thank you for
secondly,
your prayers.
I write political thrillers, novels. That's actually what I do. This novel was 2018, okay? It's about a Russian dictator who's trying to decide, should I invade Ukraine or the Baltics? This all was written and became a New York Times bestseller before.
You signed it for me.
I did for you.
Thanks so much.
So I know you're a little busy, but you don't have to read it right away.
Yeah, but I'm busy all these
I know,
long days,
but I want
weeks,
you to know
But
that-
I think I will find some time for this interesting, very interesting.
No problem.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right,
And
let's
you
get
have
right
to
into
know,
it.
You have to know my wife read everything, a lot of books. So at least if I will read half, she will read
Wonderful.
all
Well,
the
I
books.
hope she
In any
enjoys
case,
it.
thank you.
Although
Thank you so much.
I wrote it in order to raise the alarm that this is the type of things that Vladimir Putin might do. It's not technically about him, but that's my concern. And so let's get right into this. First of all, I'm deeply sorry for all the losses of Ukrainian soldiers and civilians, but I am impressed by you, by your people, and the courage. I went to the Romanov Bridge yesterday to see how you guys stopped the invasion. So I just want to talk to you first about the National Prayer Breakfast. I think it's important that you are hosting this breakfast and calling your people to prayer. Why did you feel it was important, starting last year and now this year, to host the National Prayer Breakfast? Because for years before, you hadn't done it, so why now?
If I can, I will speak Ukrainian. Yeah. Передусім, ви знаєте.
First of all, you know that we are a very religious nation, and it is true that we have always been. But in times of war, this topic becomes extremely sensitive. And understandably so, people need help against such a titan, since they are fighting for freedom and their children. It's clear that people have a lot of faith in each other, in their families, and for the most part, they trust God. I think that these prayer breakfasts are important and remain a strong tradition. In past, our people had such traditions, but over time it becomes somewhat scattered. There was no more unity anymore. But for us, it is very customary to gather different believers, different confessions of different religions. And we used to gather like this. We had the largest council of churches, the largest in Europe, by the way. As soon as I become a president, I used to participate in such gatherings a lot. Orthodox, Catholics, Protestants, Baptists, Jews, Muslims, everyone were gathering together. We met several times a year to discuss problems and ways to help each other, and it was very fruitful. In my opinion, during a time of war, a prayer breakfast is the right format. As you saw, over 1,200 people stood together on one stage, representatives of different religions, all united for peace, for the hope of a just peace in Ukraine. There is a profound belief in God among people, and I believe this serves as a strong unifying tradition, a message to all, because over 1,200 people were able to gather there, and it was significant that we sent this signal, seen by millions. It's important to convey this spirit. It truly matters.
Well, I am so grateful that you're doing this. I think it reminds me from the Bible of 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14 in the Jewish scriptures. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and I will heal their land. And I think that any country that turns to the Lord in the midst of the face of this type of evil, the Lord appreciates it, and He is going to help you guys prevail.
Coming up next on the Rosenberg Report, how does President Zelenskyy respond to charges that he's persecuting Ukrainian Christians and closing churches? And why is Zelenskyy so optimistic that President Trump just might be able to broker an end to the horrific war Vladimir Putin started 3.5 years ago? Find out when the Rosenberg Report continues on TBN right after the break.
You have been criticized by some voices in America, Tucker Carlson, for example, that you're persecuting Christians here, that you are throwing priests into prison, that you're shutting down churches. But I've been meeting with Christian leaders ever since I got here, and they tell me the exact opposite story, that the only priests that have been put into prison are Russian Orthodox priests that are spying on or accused of working for Moscow. Would you clarify this issue of religious freedom? Because I will tell you, the Christians I'm meeting at very senior levels, they say this is the most free country for their faith of any former Soviet republic, certainly more than Russia. So would you deal with that?
Yeah.
More than 70% of people are believers, and their faith, their aspirations, and their churches have never been restricted by anyone. On the contrary, the state has always supported them, and they are very free. I believe you have seen this yourself. And you know, there are over 1 million Protestants in Ukraine, and that says a lot. As for the Russian Orthodox Church, first of all, no one has persecuted anyone. On the contrary, Russia has bombed about 600 churches in Ukraine, striking indiscriminately, destroying churches of different denominations and faiths alike.
In the occupied territories.
Temporarily occupied territories.
Well, temporarily.
It's okay, I understood. But also in Ukraine, which we on the territory which we control. Okay. So they just targeted in Odessa. They always said that this is Mother Odessa. They said this is very native for them city, but they destroyed the main cathedral in Odessa by missiles.
Wow.
Not artillery.
Right.
They can't say that it just we wanted something military. No, just in the center of Odessa. Just in the touristic center of Odessa.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, the biggest church, one of the biggest, maybe the biggest in Ukraine, I think. Yeah. So, тому
Therefore, all of these claims are manipulative. The fact is that the Ukrainian legislator states that no religious organization or any organization can have legal ties with the aggressor country, and this is true. But it is absolutely normal during the war not to have legal ties with the Russian Orthodox Church. And this is not about persecution or the closure of any particular church. These are important matters, legal matters, and all of this is absolutely clear. But on the contrary, as for our pastors, our priests, we took them out of captivity, we exchanged them, and they were exchanged for Russian soldiers. They exchanged pastors for soldiers, for those Russian soldiers who were captured by us. Honestly, this is impossible to comprehend. And as far as international law is concerned, this is wrong. They must release civilians, all the more when it comes to clergymen. Yes, but that's the reality. We managed to bring them back. We returned priests, Catholic, Orthodox, and Baptists pastors. We returned them from Russian captivity. The question is, why were they held in captivity? Why were they imprisoned? That is the question. God sees everything, and I believe He will bring justice.
Thank you for addressing that, because I think that's a terrible lie that's being told, but it can affect Christians who don't know. And I appreciate that you coming on America's largest Christian television network, TBN, to tell the truth.
Thank you.
Okay, you just had a very interesting trip to the United States with some of your European allies to sit down with President Trump. My perception is that the meeting went much better than the meeting 6 months before, but what did President Trump tell you about his meetings with the war criminal of the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin, in Alaska? Did you walk away from those meetings feeling that Putin is ready to make serious concessions, or that he's really serious about stopping this war?
I'll be honest with you. I think you are right. And it is a success that this Washington meeting was good. There was a substantive conversation, and the mood at the Washington summit was positive. And our dialogue with the president was good.
You wore a suit, or a jacket at least. That was good.
Yeah, President Trump told me, nice suit. I said, this is the best what I have.
Yeah, and then you told the reporter, you're wearing the same suit.
It's true.
I saw that.
But it's true.
Yeah.
Now, we really had a very good conversation with the president and his people. And I think what important for us, we showed the unity between Europe and Ukraine. And I'm happy that President Trump supported my idea to have this common summit. Yes, European leaders, big Europe. And you know that before this meeting we had online, and about 40 countries been online. We had very good conversation. And these guys represented all the Europe, not only EU, big Europe, and they came to President Trump with all respect to the United States. And I think this was very important. We had 3 platforms of dialogue. First, it was me and President Trump. We spoke about east of Ukraine, and that we can't trust Putin. And I said to President that we need you successful. Because if United States and President Trump, with the leader of the United States today, if you are successful, it means that you can bring us just and lasting peace. Yes, but we can't trust Putin. And I said to President Trump, you will see that he will find any kind of ways how to be out from any kind of negotiations. He said it very openly. But there is the second reason, that the President Trump is one of those persons who really can pressure on Putin to sit and negotiate and bring peace to Ukraine, our nation, to all the nations of Europe, be honest. So that's why I think that we understood each other. We spoke a lot of kilometers and battlefield, territorial integrity, why it's such important. I hope that President Trump understood me. And then we had common meeting with summit with Europeans. And all of us been on the same side, that we need security guarantees for Ukraine. I'm happy that the United States is involved to give us these security guarantees, but we need now urgent steps forward with details and etc. And also we understood that we need trilateral meeting. Then President Trump said that he wants to connect with Putin now. He's happy that we are ready for trilateral, and he wants to connect with him. He connected, and after that, the outcome was that the proposition is a little bit another, that first bilateral, then trilateral. I said, Mr. President, look, I supported all your ideas from the very beginning. Ceasefire without any kind of conditions. We didn't. We wanted very much to have some conditions because Russia is aggressive. But President Trump said, we are ready for ceasefire. I said, okay, we will support your idea. Putin withdraw from this platform.
Right.
The second one, President said that just meeting and to have result like ceasefire, and we said yes, but Putin again withdraw from this platform. Now there is the third proposition, and we again supported, and we again supported the meetings in Istanbul before. We supported everything what the United States recommended us. I don't want to give any percent to Putin to say that because of Ukraine we can't have a peace.
No, in some ways you're proving so far that you're ready for peace and he isn't. The question is there enough pressure on Putin? I mean,
I think no.
You think no?
Not enough, and President Trump knows my opinion. My opinion, and then my opinion was together with the European, they've been on my side, that if Putin this time again will delay any kind of peace negotiations, that we really count on big pressure from the United States on Russia, on Putin. And we need it very much. It's not only about tariffs and sanctions and etc. It's also about the big packages of weapons to Ukraine. Doesn't mean that we will need, we will use it. It doesn't mean, so of course, better stop the war, stop killings. Yes, but this is one of the pressure.
Coming up next on the Rosenberg Report, will President Trump dramatically ratchet up the pressure on Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine and stop the killing? Does Trump have enough support in Congress to impose the bone-crushing new sanctions on Putin? And how should Christians pray for peace in Europe, even as war rages on in Gaza? Don't miss Joel's exclusive interview with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy when the Rosenberg Report continues on TBN right after the break.
So before I came, I talked to three people. I talked to former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. I talked to former Vice President Mike Pence and current Senator Lindsey Graham. All three very good friends of yours and strong supporters of Ukraine. Lindsey Graham told me that he's got a bill ready to go, 85 co-sponsors, Democrat and Republican, to put what he called bone-crushing sanctions on Putin and on anybody that will buy oil from him or to support his war. And then Vice President Pence just wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal strongly supporting that approach. So is the time now, Trump doesn't necessarily need to do the sanctions. He could wait, he could have the bills signed and ready, on the gun on the table, I guess. Maybe that's the wrong term for peace. But do you think that type of pressure, severe economic sanctions, much more, as well as weapons, is that a combination that you think has a shot at moving Putin to get serious?
Yes. I think that one of the reasons sanctions, and thanks to Lindsey, really he's a very good, big friend of Ukraine and of mine, and he's very supportive.
He believes in you.
And really, and God bless we have such friends, really, and bipartisan support, as you said, 100%.
85 senators in the Senate don't agree on anything. We never see that.
As co-sponsors, that's great, huge result, and I know that President Trump understands it, yes, very well, and so sanctions is very good, and as we say in Ukraine, I don't know how it is in English, when we have to provide, we always say in Ukraine, yesterday. So is it time? Yesterday. So this is the first sanctions. In any case, it has to be combination, not enough sanctions, not enough just weapon. So it's combination of sanctions, of weapon, and of President Trump. His pressure, his political pressure on Putin, because again and again, I'm repeating that Putin is trying to withdraw from any kind of negotiation. Putin tries to pause in sanctions policy, and to find a way. I mean, I'm not about money when I say buy. I mean that he's trying to find time.
Manipulate.
Manipulate and try to find time using different kinds of reasons why United States a little bit to wait, not to make such pressure, and etc. And politically, President Trump can do it, because I think that Putin, he is, in any case, Russia doesn't respect United States. And it's not news. Right. They use, but they afraid very much. I mean, they
because Trump has more tools that he could leverage against them.
Of course, so they respect power, what United States has, but not the same, but not values, no business, not the attitude to the life.
What a fascinating conversation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. It was an exclusive conversation, and we're not done yet. You just saw part of my conversation. We're going to do more of it next week, Lord willing. Fascinating, because Zelenskyy is at the epicenter of the biggest, most horrific raging war on the planet today. Yes, war still raging in Gaza, but this is the biggest land war in Europe. This is the biggest land war in the world right now. And as you see, just tremendous destruction as Vladimir Putin keeps targeting civilians. He's trying to kill and terrorize Ukrainian men, women, and children. The death toll is climbing here, but as of this moment, as I record this show, there's 12 dead just overnight, 12 Ukrainian civilians dead, including 3 children, 12, 14, and 17, 48 wounded. And they're still working in that building right now to see if they can find more survivors. We've got a lot more to talk about with Zelenskyy, and I'm going to, and I also want you to watch a YouTube exclusive that I've done going into more detail on the persecution that Vladimir Putin is doing of Christians here in Ukraine. It's a very important video. There's several other videos here on the Rosenberg Report YouTube channel, and of course on All Israel News as well. We're covering it from multiple angles. Thank you so much for watching. Please pray for peace. Pray that the killing would stop here. Pray that President Trump would be successful at bringing an end to this sick and wicked war. And may you and your family have a good and peaceful week, walking closely with the Lord Jesus Christ. And Lord willing, I'll see you next week, right here on the Rosenberg Report.